2014 meeting of the Anderson Township Zoning Commission started. Is there a recommendation for the approval of the agenda? And I might suggest that maybe we move the minutes to the end of the agenda.
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Next item then on our agenda is case number 5-2014 Anderson, which is a submittal for a modification on behalf of Some Manor. Paul, you want to give us a second?
Okay,
please?
thank you. The applicant is Richard Pantiera for Studio for Architecture, who is on behalf of Some Manor, who is the property owner. The location is at 1348 Pebble Court, and the existing zoning is DD, which is planned multiple family residence. The request is for a substantial modification to the final development plan, and this is for the renovation of the existing structure to convert it from currently one-bedroom and efficiency apartments to all single one-bedroom apartments. In conjunction with that conversion would be an addition onto the existing building, as well as additional parking, and then interior renovations and exterior facade renovations. A little bit of history. In November of 1967, that is when the Board of County Commissioners approved the zone change. At that time, it was Zone B, which was single-family residence, and it was changed to DD multifamily. And there was 4 conditions placed on that zone change at the time. So that is the original final development plan that we're working off of for this particular property. And because of the request for an addition as well as an increase in impervious surface, and there was one condition that was unclear, we felt that it needed to go through the substantial modification process for review. This is a this is a map of the current zoning. Outlined is the site in question. Here is the building in question. It is zone DD, which again is planned multifamily. Property to the north is also zoned the same, which is part of the Stonegate apartment community. To the east, it is zone B, which is single-family residence. And then to the south, it is zone E, which is retail. This is the Fitworks building. There's a self-storage there, Ollie's. It's a retail shopping center. This is the operations center, which is owned by the township, where the fire department is located, the public works garage and sheriff's garage. And then this area is owned by the township, but it is vacant land. This is an aerial of the site in question. Again, this is the current Some Manor. You enter off of Pebble Court. There is a drive off of the cul-de-sac of Pebble Court. And there are parking on the north side and on the east side of the building. And then there is also a vehicular and pedestrian connection to the south to the operations center, as well as a pedestrian connection to the shopping center. This is the site plan, the proposal in question. Again, the existing building. And then the proposed addition would be off of the southwest corner. For, again, to aid in the conversion of the entire facility into one-bedroom units. Additional parking is proposed along the northern area here, and again on the western border of the property in this general vicinity, as well as the southeastern corner. The current number of units is 144, and again, this is a combination of efficiencies and one-bedrooms. There's 110 one-bedrooms and 34, and again, it is to convert all of them into one-bedroom, and then approximately 41 new parking spaces would be added. This colorful map is our future land use map for the township. Again, the site is identified for multifamily residence. Area to the south is identified for general mixed use. Area to the north is transitional residence. These are site photos. This is looking from the cul-de-sac of Pebble Court, looking into the facility, looking generally in the south, the main entrance, into the parking lot. This is looking at the area of the addition, again looking south toward, this is the shopping center to the south. This area right here would be the area of the addition, and then in the front of the picture would be the area of a parking expansion. This is looking from the opposite direction, standing on the southern property line looking north toward Pebble Court. Again, This is the back wing of the property where the addition is proposed, and again, parking in this general vicinity. This is looking into the wooded area where the addition would extend. This is looking at the proposed parking expansion along the northern property line. This is existing property, but as you enter off of Pebble Court and then driving around the building, this is the area of proposed parking expansion. This is looking at the main entrance. Currently, the main entrance is located in the corner of the building, and it is proposed to be relocated centrally in the middle building there. This is an area that has raised gardens in an open area which is proposed for parking. And then back to this site plan. The area that we were just looking at was right here. So again, as far as the history goes, the original zoning was approved in 1967, and the existing building was built in 1970. There have been multiple hearings on the Stonegate apartment development back in 1994, 2003, and 2005. However, with tracing the history of those resolutions, there was little information on this particular piece. Most of the conditions were for the Stonegate property. You can see the agency reports. There was a concern over access from our fire department, which the Township Fire Department has discussed with the applicant as far as emergency access to the proposed building addition. So with a zone change, well, I'm sorry, not with the zone change, but with a substantial modification, the first item that we look at is for zoning compliance. And also, Hamilton County Regional Planning heard this a couple weeks ago, and their recommendation was in your staff report. So for zoning resolution compliance, there were 3 areas that were not compliant with township zoning resolution. The first is section 135.3, which requires a lot area per apartment not to be less than 2,000 square feet. And with the proposal, there would be a lot area of slightly over 1,500 square feet per unit. That is an area that is not in compliance with current zoning. The second area requires parking areas to be set back 10 feet from residential districts. This area right here would not be compliant with that because property to the north is zoned residential. However, the applicant is proposing to be consistent with this non-conforming parking here. There is a solid fence that you can see from the pictures. So the applicant is just proposing to extend that parking very similar to what currently exists. But a variance would be needed from that particular section. Section 144D, the zoning requires two-way drive out to be 24 feet. And this particular area here is less than 24 feet. But again, it is an existing drive aisle, and there's not too much room. 24 feet cannot be achieved with the building, the sidewalk, and then trying to maintain consistency with that parking in that area. Section 144H requires dumpsters to be screened by a wall or fence, and there are 2 existing dumpsters that should be brought into compliance during this renovation, a complete enclosure. Also, Section 145A states it requires 1 parking space per bed for elderly housing, and in this, the applicant is proposing 122 parking spaces, which is an increase of what is there. 130 spaces would be allowed as of right, so the applicant is proposing 122. Again, the approving resolution, if you're following along in the staff report, there were 4 conditions from 1966, and staff felt that the conditions regarding the density were not being met, and that's why it's being brought before you as a substantial modification. The applicable plans, the first adopted plan that we examined is the Anderson Trails Plan, which is primarily relates to pedestrian connectivity. Let me catch up here. There are existing sidewalks on Pebble Court. There's an existing pedestrian connection to the property to the south of the shopping center, and there is a existing sidewalk connection to the operations center and the senior center. So staff was of the opinion that this is meeting the intent of the Anderson Trails Plan. The comprehensive plan, there were several areas that we felt were consistent. Number one, with the land use, the future land use, this use is consistent with the future land use designation as multifamily. It is consistent with transportation, housing in neighborhoods, as this use provides a housing need in the township. It's also, the comprehensive plan identifies that type of housing, but it also struggled with where to locate. Well, this is an existing facility. It makes sense that that type of housing continue in that location and offer an expansion and improvement to that housing. As far as design guidelines, there was one concern. Elevation drawings were not submitted with this application, so we do recommend that if the zoning commission approves this, that at the time of final development plan, the elevation drawings be submitted and evaluated at that time to ensure that the architecture of the addition is consistent with the existing facility. There were a couple design concerns as well, especially with the parking lot on the west side of the building. This was an area, this parking here, if you recall from the pictures, there are basement unit apartments on that side, so staff was very concerned with how that parking lot is screened from the basement unit apartments on that side of the building, and should be of consideration, as well as, again, the Township Fire Department was concerned with emergency access to the addition on this side of the property. So staff recommends approval consistent with Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission conditions, which are in your staff report. Number one, that consistency with the design guidelines shall be achieved through the final development plan review process. That right-of-way be dedicated along Beachmont Avenue in compliance with the Hamilton County Thoroughfare Plan. And there is a panhandle for this property that goes out to Beachmont Avenue. It's Hawkins Lane, essentially. It's in that general vicinity between Batteries Plus and Cool's Hotspot. So right-of-way was not dedicated at the time of the original rezoning back in 1966. So it's about a 20-foot panhandle, but the county recommended consistent compliance with the county thoroughfare plan. Number three, that all dumpsters shall comply with the setback and screening requirements. Parking areas be in compliance with the zoning resolution, except for that area that a variance is being requested. The existing access drive and walkway to the Township Operations Center shall remain open and indicated in the final development plan. There were three variances, again, one for the parking setback on the north, the lot area per apartment, as well as the total number of parking spaces, and staff was recommending a variance be granted for all three of those. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Paul. Steve, do you have any questions?
Real quick, you mentioned that I saw the agency report about the fire and rescue, and you had mentioned that they're working with the applicant directly. Do we need to consider anything or impose any condition about that? Or
Generally, there is a condition that, that issues with the agencies, the county agencies, be achieved.
Okay.
I believe that the county, I don't know if they recommended a condition, but yes, that issue needs to be addressed. The fire department's not necessarily opposed to the addition and substantial modification. They just feel that there needs to be access, emergency access to that portion of the addition.
Is that the only question?
yeah, that's it.
I have no questions.
Okay. So the addition itself, is that 3 stories? Is it?
Currently it's 2 stories with basement units.
Okay.
So
And
it
that's
would,
what the
yes, it would
proposal
be the
is for.
proposal, yes.
And then I had the same question about the fire department, and then my other question had to do with the building materials, but you answered that as
It
well.
was in their letter that it would be consistent.
Okay.
There will be some facade modifications when you go from joining, or I guess converting 2 efficiencies into a 1-bedroom. So the windows, and there will be some facade improvements that will have to be made.
But we'll see those as a part
Which
of the
we'll see that, right.
Okay.
Regional planning and staff would like to make sure that the zoning commission sees that during final
Okay.
development plan approval.
All right, that sounds good. Would the applicant like to address the commission? If you give us your name and address for anybody that's going to speak this evening, we would appreciate that. And you need to come up to the podium as well.
Okay. I believe it'll only be myself, but honorable members of the board, thank you. I'm Rick Pansiero with Studio for Architecture, representing Sem Manor. I believe staff's pretty much done as good a job as I need to do for explaining what's going on. I think it's a little bit of a complex situation with the building, just so you get a grasp of what's going on there. Your question about the height of the building, each wing, it's odd, this was built in 1970, each wing is 4.5 feet lower than the progressive wing as you go around the U shape. So there's actually multiple floor levels that has an elevator to, overcome the differences there. So the intent would be that the portion that we refer to as the addition in the southwest corner would be on the exact same levels as the center wing of the building. That means that the west wing and the east wing would each either be 4.5 feet lower or 4.5 feet higher. And just to make clear, the reason for the addition is because what we're doing is we're taking the space that was 144 units with mainly efficiencies and converting those to one bedrooms. So we'll be taking essentially approximately the space of three efficiency units will make up space we need for 2 one-bedrooms. So it's kind of like a 3-for-2 swap. And when you do that, as well as the other common areas that we're reconfiguring, it creates the need to put 34 new units in to overcome just to maintain the 144 units. So just want to be clear, we're not asking for an increase in the number of units, just the actual mix of it. And yes, I personally have spoken with both Chief Ober and Chief Martin, and I understand their concerns, and we've had constructive dialogue about what we can try to do to alleviate it. They admit we're kind of a little bit hamstrung ourselves. Both their main concern would be the ability to fight any fire of the building from the very south, meaning from the parking lot of the retail, which is privately owned and has a fence currently separating us. So I said we'll work with them as much as they're willing to. He was happy with even if we could maybe even get some gates added to that so that they'd have some access through there. But he admits we don't have everything in our power to be able to really change much of the situation. The one thing I did explain to him that I have no problem with is when I submitted the plan, you'll note that the detention basin is just north of the new wing, sort of in between that and the parking that I was going to add on that side. And I was doing that because there's a major swale there currently, which is the natural place for drainage to go to. I told him I have no problem with flipping the detention over to the north side of that swale. It would cut slightly into where you see the existing woods left on there, and then, if even necessary, extend the parking a little closer to the building so that he has as close as access as possible for fighting anything that's in that southwest corner of the whole property. And he seemed to be very fine with both of those issues. But I told him, as this progresses, I can pretty much handle as many of his questions as I'm able to within land that we properly own. And regarding the parking additions, as both Paul and Allison noticed, we're currently at 80, I think it's either 81 or 88, I don't remember which. 82 parking spaces for the 144 that are there. And, it satisfies the need, but it gets right to the point where you get a lot of visitors and there's just no extra parking. So we wanted to take this opportunity to bump that up as much as possible we're not trying to permeate the entire site with impervious surface. So we felt where the 3 areas that we added were reasonable additions of parking that would certainly give us what we feel is more than enough adequate parking, even though technically it still falls slightly below what the zoning code recommends. But we've found for all of the senior facilities that we've designed for that You know, if you really average it out, it honestly comes up more closer to about 3/4 to 1 is what truly is necessary for a senior facility such as this. So we feel we'll have plenty with what it is. Regarding the spaces that we're requesting to add to the north, I think we're asking for 10 up there. As Paul pointed out, we're not trying to come any closer to the property line than what's already existing. It is 5 foot now, and it's a solid fence up against there. The other thing you'll note, my plan specifically shows there are 3 mature deciduous trees up in that area, and rather than just blanket that with asphalt, I've worked it out so that if we only remove one of those trees, the one in the center, and maintain the 2 to each side, it'll still at least retain a nice wooded ambiance that there is to that area, but allow us to get 10 more spaces up in that particular spot. And then, yes, the only reason that we have not provided the elevations at this point is we're really still working through, we need to know what the unit mix is going to be allowed through these meetings, because in fact what ends up happening is when we move efficiencies into 1-bedrooms, technically the window locations don't line up properly, and so anywhere where I'm changing an efficiency into a 1-bedroom unit, I'll be affecting the exterior of the building, and we really need to look at what sort of rhythm we set up with that. But it will still be maintaining the same building materials as what is there now, and certainly would blend in with the rest of the architecture. So we're really just you know, hoping that everybody sees this is a good fit for the area. It's going to give the project an opportunity to get a well-needed infusion of money that will not only allow us to do the addition, but upgrade all of the existing facility. And the other offshoot of that, which we did discuss with the fire department, is that currently, while management's done a good job and voluntarily come in and added smoke detectors and emergency lighting that was not necessarily required of them, hopefully if this goes through all the processes and we obtain the grants that are being requested, we would actually come back and sprinkle the entire structure. So fire department was very happy to hear that as well, because it's going to lessen the concerns that they have for fighting anything from the exterior of the building. So I certainly can answer any other things that might come up that the board would want to know.
Thank you. Any questions?
Answered all my questions.
None.
I've got a question. You talked about the floor elevation of the existing versus the proposed. How about the eve elevation and ridge elevations of the building? Are they going to match the existing buildings?
Yes, but what they've done is there's a connector right in each corner to try to overcome those awkward roof situations. It's an interesting roof construction as it is, but yes, probably what happens when we add the addition on the west side, that will give us the opportunity to sort of mesh into those roofs. That's kind of why I indicate a small little connector between the buildings, because that 8-foot wide connector makes for an easier connection of the roof lines than a 55-foot wide building would there. But we are, like I said, that's sort of in the process of being worked out when we get into the elevations that are going on.
But the real goal is to maintain the height and not exceed the existing height.
Oh yeah, no additional height whatsoever. If anything, I would be recommending to the SEM board some design ideas, there perhaps some additional false dormers or something such as that to just add an artistic look to it. But there's no reason to need to raise the roof. In fact, the roof technically got raised at some point before I was involved in it by about 2 feet, because it used to have a flat roof, and the method that they did that is that they're kind of like a large gable truss that's been set on top of there, which creates an extra tall soffit line that you've got to work with. That's why it looks the way it does.
And then with the condition or recommendation of enclosing the dumpsters, are you looking to enclose those with the same exterior material as the existing buildings and the addition?
Yeah, a normal dumpster enclosure for a project such as this would be, if it's a masonry building, it would be 3 sides of masonry with a wood slotted swinging door for access for the dumpster trucks.
But the masonry finish exterior would be the same brick as the building?
Correct, correct. And there's actually, and I'm not 100% certain of which dumpster Paul's referring to, but there's actually one there right now that's really, honestly, a construction dumpster getting some materials. So the locations that we're referring to, there's one in the southeast corner and one in the northwest corner. And I believe there might be one more that is right along the north side there. But yes, we have no problem with saying that we'll do the enclosures, necessary enclosures around those.
Okay. And I think the last question is maintaining the existing fence along the north property line when the new pavement's going on. You're planning on maintaining the existing fence or
Yes,
replacing
yes.
it? Maintain? Okay.
Essentially, what's happened there, and I think Paul had a photo of it, is it's a area where there's currently, there it is. You can see the 3 large deciduous trees, the existing 21-foot wide aisle drive that he's speaking of. We would be taking out that center tree, but you can see the fence is already in place there, so it's a matter of just putting parking in there. But like you said, we do have a problem in that it is so close to this, on the south side to the existing building, there isn't the room to gain the extra 3 feet. But it's not a new situation that we're creating. It's that width there now for any of the cars that currently go around that side of the building.
I mean, when I visited a site and looking at the picture, it looks like grade falls off there. That's why I was
Oh,
wondering if
okay,
you're going
yeah.
to maintain fence, so.
There probably is the need, I would anticipate there's going to have to be some kind of retaining wall to allow us to maintain the height there, but it would not remove the fence. The
Okay.
retaining wall would occur within that 5-foot section.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
And the only question that I have is, so when you begin the construction, then in this particular area, would you be willing to put some construction fencing around the drip line for those 2 trees that are going to stay? I'm a little bit concerned about, the guy gets a little happy with his bulldozer or his bobcat or whatever and takes a chunk out of the tree. And,
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, like I said, it's our intention voluntarily to
Sure.
try to maintain them as best we can, and I've done everything I can to shift it so that we don't get too much into the existing drip line, because if we get too close, the tree's not going to make it
survive,
anyway.
yeah.
So it's not the intention to kill the tree.
Right. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak in favor of the request this evening? Okay, having that. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the request? And again, if so, if you come up to the podium and give us your name and address, we would appreciate that. Does anybody just have any?
I'm not really sure.
I was going to say, does anybody have any questions? What- Could we come up to the, yep, sorry.
My name is Cindy Nielsen. I live in Sin Manor, and these are my neighbors. I would like the board to give me a gentleman's agreement on what we would discuss. Can I have a gentleman's agreement?
I don't know what you're saying.
On what we agreed to about the displacement of the residents? Can we have a gentleman's agreement? If we'll get that taken care of?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm all for everything. And don't worry about the trees. We got beautiful trees up there. And as long as we get, they'll take care of it. We've got a whole crew that takes care of the trees. We just need a new maintenance man. We really need a new maintenance man, for the record. And this will be an improvement. We've got our whole neighborhood, the apartments, the houses. Everybody's improved everything, but Sin Manor is stuck in time. And once this is done, we'll fit right into Anderson Township.
Great. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Okay. Guys, do you have any questions or thoughts you want to share?
I mean, I don't see anything to be opposed to it. It looks pretty, I mean, the variances as outlined seem reasonable to me. I think everything seems reasonable, so.
I think it's important to maintain the number of units. I mean, none of us are getting any younger, except me, of course, and so we obviously
have
need
some
to...
of your water?
Yeah. So I think it's important that we maintain the number of units, and I clearly understand the need to go from efficiencies to one bedrooms. I think that's important as well. So with that, then, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 5-2014 with the conditions stated in the staff report, recommendations from Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission, with an addition for the dumpsters that the finished material should be matching the existing and the proposed addition exterior finishes. And I'm assuming the variances will be separate motions?
No, I was going
Okay.
to include it all.
And also approve the 3 variances, one being the proposed setback of parking lot from 10 feet to 5 foot, the other being the lot area reduction from 2,000 square feet per bedroom to 1,593 square feet per unit, and then the last being that the parking be approved at 122 spaces in lieu of the 130 required by zoning.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Perfect. Allison, could you call the roll for us?
Mr. Frey?
Yes?
Mr. Gottlieb?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
You are
Thank you.
Minutes are approved. So since the only other item then on our agenda is the approval of minutes, I believe then that we can approve the September minutes. Is there a motion to do that then?
I'll make a motion to approve the September 22nd, 2014 minutes.
A second.
Allison, you call it?
Mr. Bryan?
Yes?
Mr. Gottlieb?
Yes.
Mr. Knopf?
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll continue the November minutes on to
So,
January.
January, yes.
Great.
The trustees will be making appointments for next year on Thursday. So this could be Rob's last meeting, it's just, if it is.
We'd like to thank him for all of
Getting
his service and meetings that he's attended and his contributions.
Thank you.
So,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So just look for your letters in the mail around Christmas time. It seems like they always get sent out between Christmas and New Year's in that
I always think there's a
timeframe.
check in the mail.
Yes.
Shake them upside down.
We are expecting a case in January.
26.
January the 26th, potentially. So if you could please mark your calendars for that. And is there anything else?
No.
I think that's it.
Okay. Anybody else got anything?
I potentially may be out of town January 26th.
Okay,
So you'll need to get 2 alternates.
yes.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thanks very much. Motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.